Did you do bubbles and I do bubbles at the beginning?
Mason Hills that was done. And they upgraded the
Hello and welcome back to the channel. The first test match between England and the West Indies at Lord's has just concluded and the second one is currently underway. So Mullen, you were there. How was the experience?
Well, I watched 13 overs of bowling, which saved me all my money, but it was an interesting viewing. I mean, the West Indies are really not up to much at the minute, sadly. So it's a very dominant one-sided affair. I didn't watch enough cricket to make a full judgment from my in-person experiences.
So the West Indies for 13 overs didn't look very good, did they?
No, the only half-competent batsman, Joshua De Silva, who was still there on the third morning, nicked off after about 5 balls. So after that, it was very one-sided.
Fair enough, fair enough. So tell me, Jimmy is, well, obviously now gone, but apart from the fact he's obviously our greatest cricketer, which is he?
No.
Okay, who is?
Lennon.
All right, why not Jimmy?
Statistically, he's not there in terms of numbers.
What, 104?
Yeah, no, because the way
100, how many? 188 test
188
matches,
test matches.
704 wickets, and he's not our greatest player.
No.
How does that work?
Because he's not the best bowler of this generation. He's not the best bowler.
What defines the best bowler?
In terms of output, in terms of skill, in terms of he's the best over a longevity period. He's not, but he's not better than Dale Steyn.
Well, obviously he didn't have the best peak. Yeah, but he didn't have the best peak. No. But obviously he still had that longevity, which puts him in that conversation, does it not?
No, it puts him in the conversation. I'd certainly put him top 5, top 10 pace bowler of all time, but I don't think he is, in my opinion, the best bowler of all time. I think he's our best bowler of all time, but I think.
That's my point. He's England's best ever
bowler,
not best ever cricketer.
No, best bowler.
Anyone in this generation who's better than him?
No,
definitely England's best cricketer of this generation.
Yeah. I think there's a conversation for Root
ahead of the. Root's not finished yet. So.
Yeah, there's conversation for Root, but it's certainly
Peterson. Root. Okay, lovely.
Those three in kind of the conversation. But in terms of all time, I think because he's not the best of this generation across the world, I don't think we can personally say he's the best English cricketer of all time, because when you go back in time, you look at the players such as Len Hutton, they probably are the best of their generation. Same with Ken Barrington as well. The older players are the best of this generation. Whether you then compare generations is another question for another day.
Fair enough. Was it the right choice by the England management to say, Jimmy, enough now, we can't have you forever, we've got to start planning ahead? or not even was it the right choice, but was it the right time for that choice?
I think it depends on how you look at it. I think in terms of the criteria of the fact that Jimmy Anderson isn't going to be effective in Australia in 18 months' time is
What makes you say that?
I think he's never been fantastic there. I think his average is mid-30s, 35.
Yeah, but
He's taken,
all the other bowlers average what, 50 odd, don't they?
not that much. I mean, Broad averaged a lot less. I think Broad was 27, 28 in Australia. Jimmy's only ever taken 5-wicket haul. He hasn't ever been as dominant there. He's not as dominant as he is. He hasn't been as dominant as he was in previous years in England or in continents where he was as not good. Look at last summer's Ashes. It's probably his worst series in England ever in the last 10 years.
Fair enough.
So it's probably the right step to make. Whether it's the right decision in terms of why they're doing it, why they're looking forward to the Ashes, I personally don't think so. I think we're losing sight of just becoming the best team in the world. I think that should be the primary objective. And I think it's too focused on Australia.
So everything's about the Ashes for England.
Yeah, and I think it shouldn't be.
And it should. So what sort of approach would make more sense?
Just trying to take each series at a time, trying to take each
Yes,
test
but
match at a time.
you can't really do that. I think, especially this summer, we don't want to say obviously West Indies and Sri Lanka are good sides on their own, but they're not going to specifically challenge England at home in their own conditions. So can you kind of understand why they've gone?
I can understand it.
Why we're going ahead? What's their next series? Pakistan away in the winter and New Zealand.
Yeah, I think so.
Both sides weren't really.
New Zealand is decent side at home.
Yeah, but still they're
not Australia or India.
That's the point.
That's the fact.
It almost feels like if it's not Australia or India, they don't care.
And I think that's wrong.
You think so?
Because our objective should be to become the best Test team in the world, win the World Test Championship.
So the last time England were the best Test side under Andrew Strauss,
2011.
Was their focus to be the best Test team,
Yes.
or did they focus on winning that with 2011 Ashes?
Their focus was to become the best Test team in the world.
And that's why
they win the Ashes.
Okay.
They look at how we win it. I mean, don't get me wrong, that's probably the best England side that's ever existed. I mean, you look at the players in that 11. Of course. It's probably maybe comparable to the 1930s England team. Yeah. That's the 1930s. Yeah. That's the best English team in the last 60 years. And they focused under Andy Flower on how we're going to become the best team in the world, how we're going to win in separate continents, which they did. They won in India, slightly later, albeit not under that leadership, the exact same leadership, but it's under Cook, it's the same team. And they focused on winning in different continents, and they did that, and that's what made them
so
best.
They genuinely focused on becoming as good a side as possible with whatever resources they had.
Yeah.
So that England side, if they're what fast bowler was there around that time was similar situation to Jim. Obviously, it was not the exact same. But if put this way, if Andrew Strauss had Jimmy in the situation now, and Jimmy was actively saying, "I want to carry on," would they have said no?
I mean, they had clear roles in that team.
Okay.
So 2008, 2009, you see a couple of older players leave off in Hoggard. Sorry, not Hoggard, apologies. It was Flintoff left, and I can't remember the other one. But it was one of the older bowlers from the 2005 team. They left at the end of that Ashes series. But there was clear roles in each bowler. I think that's partly why Stephen Finn, quite famously, was dropped for the 2011 Boxing Day Test after being the leading wicket taker in the series. They had clear roles. That's slightly different.
England side has clear roles?
Not in the same way.
What do you mean?
I think a lot of the bowlers they're building almost have similar roles. So I think if you look at Gus Atkinson and Mark Wood, so stylistically they're similar bowlers.
Okay, so
I feel like that's not quite the bowling attack they want to create.
Wait there. Well, let's just start with the fact that Broad and Jimmy are now gone.
Yeah.
So they have to build a new attack going forward somehow. There are obviously Atkinson's just broken in, bowled very well. Yeah. What role does he fit into the question mark Broad role? Slightly quicker. Broad wasn't slow either. Does Wokes have to do? Obviously, he can't do what Jimmy did, but is he the swing bowler now, or do England just go now? We're going to pick really tall guys about 90 mile an hour and hit the deck.
See, the thing is, I don't think if you're going to drop Jimmy Anderson,
bear in mind, currently the only thing they care about is the Ashes.
Yeah. Rightly
or wrongly, this is for the Ashes. What bowling attack are they trying to build going forward? Who have they got in the squad? Wokes, obviously Dylan Pennington.
Yeah.
Tongue and Archie are out injured.
Yeah.
There's Bashir as a spinner.
And they've
Atkinson, obviously.
written off Potts quite clearly. He doesn't really play.
I feel like he should be around there. There was Bryden Cast before his
he's the one I
before
like.
his ban.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're looking at it like that, I don't think Gus Atkinson is the same style of bowler as Jimmy Anderson or
Stuart Broad. No, he's completely
He's
different.
It's higher economy.
Yeah.
And he's quicker.
And more hit the deck.
If you want the same bowler as Jimmy Anderson, you pick Sam Cook. I know he's injured right now, but he is stylistically the exact same bowler as Jimmy and is quite comfortably been the best bowler in county championship cricket for 2 years.
So that doesn't matter, of course, because
it's the Ashes, and that's what I don't agree
They're
with.
going to Australia and they say, who would be good in Australia? Gus Atkinson, apparently.
I mean, Ollie Robinson was all right in Australia. He averages
bowling off spin.
He averages 25 over their house.
He was bowling off spin in the second test.
He averages 25 over there.
He was, but that's the type of bowler.
Is very
but essentially, that's the type of bowler they're going to get. They want Ollie Robinson, but plus fitter and faster.
Yeah.
Which is what they're trying to get from Dylan Pennington and Atkinson.
If
obviously Mark Wood is going to be a given.
Hopefully Jofra's fit.
And Mark Wood is fit.
Yeah.
But if Jofra's fit in 18 months' time, they have spoken about a sort of like plan to get him back in, right?
Yeah, I mean, Jofra Archie will never play 5 Test matches in the series. I mean,
no, but neither is Mark Wood.
No, Mark Wood. Would play what?
But my point is, if they take enough of those kinds of bowlers, they can have a proper attack. So, who was in that England attack that won the last Ashes down under?
Well, you had the
Tremlett.
two big boys. Tremlett played on and off.
Yeah, but my point is, Tremlett was there.
Broad
and Jimmy.
Finn, Bresnan. Bresnan took 5 on the Boxing Day test.
Okay, but
so clearly it's not the guys bowling 95 miles.
It wasn't that similar, but what is the difference is Tremlett, Bresnan, and Finn were a lot taller and more hit the deck.
Yeah.
And obviously Jimmy and Brody adjusted themselves.
Broad is 6'6".
Exactly, and Jimmy is not small either. He bowls however he needs to because he's James Anderson.
Yeah.
But my point is, it's the style of bowler they're trying to go for.
Yeah.
Essentially, what they're trying to do is, by the looks of it, as we'll come on to, they're trying to not pick a Chris Wokes bowler, which is a traditional swing bowler for Australia.
But my point is, if they're going to do that,
is Chris Wokes England's best bowler currently playing? Not Jimmy Anderson, who's retired. Currently playing.
Conditional. It's conditional. It's seasonal. It's where he's playing. Is he one of the best bowlers in England? Does he have the skill set to consistently do well in England? Of course he does. But the moment
they leave on a plane,
but he won't play.
Okay, but the moment
he can't play away from home.
Oh well, yeah. Like, do you think he'll get better?
No, he's 34, 35.
James Anderson got better. Stuart Broad got better.
Yes, they did get better. Chris Wokes has almost retired from away cricket. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, last summer
he basically goes, "I don't want to play from away from home."
Well, no, of course he didn't say I don't want to. He just said I don't see it happening.
Yeah,
it's different. If they took him, he'd say, "All right, I'll go," but he's not exactly pushing for it, is it? Because he knows where he's there.
He's not effective. He averages 22 at home, 47 away from home.
I'll take that as my betting average, absolutely. But yeah, that's my point. Chris Wokes is he England's best bowler currently?
No.
So if no. So say the first test at Lords.
Yeah.
Okay. So if there was no Jimmy Anderson, who would have been the second name on the team sheet? Chris Wokes.
In England, Chris Wokes.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. And their best bowler, or their number one bowler for English conditions, James Anderson. We're both agreeing on that.
Yeah, I agree with it.
He's not going to be there anymore because
they forced
they've almost written this summer off as a 6-0.
Yeah.
Or a 5-1 or something like that.
Which England need, to be fair, given their current position in the World Test Championship.
Yeah, but they don't care about the World Test Championship, do they?
That's what
They're bottom of the table.
That's what I don't understand.
And the one competition that exists for the World Test Championship, for Test cricket, they don't care.
And for me, I completely disagree with that.
What, the fact that
they don't...
They literally have a World Cup for Test cricket and they don't care about it
because they care more about the Ashes.
All right.
That's completely missing sight of what they should
do. You think that's just you or a lot of English fans?
Yeah, I think that's predominantly me because as English fans, we are too fixated on Australia. If we weren't as fixated on Australia...
So England are obsessed with Australia.
Yeah. Do you think the Aussies care that much?
I think not as much as...
No.
So England will look at 18 months out, where Australia will look at about 8 weeks out, won't they?
Probably 6 months.
Not even 6 months.
But the thing is...
In a couple of months leading up, they'll have a look, of course. I mean, they changed their... although obviously Tim Payne had whatever, but they changed their test captain, 4 weeks before the Ashes?
Yeah.
2 weeks, something like that.
I mean, there was a massive scandal.
Yeah, but my
thrown
point is, like,
England would have
it
kept
wasn't obviously it was a scandal, but it didn't feel the same type of. Imagine if Ben Stokes suddenly went and obviously Ollie Pope is currently vice captain, but like, I know who else? Is that Crawley?
Probably would be.
Fair enough. And talking about a couple of new guys, we've spoken to Atkinson, but there was a big wicketkeeper debate thingy.
Yep.
Jamie Smith, where does he sit? I mean, obviously it's only been one game, but where does he sit between the Wokes and Bairstow spectrum? So if we go Bairstow is if we go the Bairstow side of the spectrum is all bat, no gloves. Obviously you can keep, but my point is if that's Bairstow side and the Folk side is all gloves, no bat. Even though Folks is a brilliant batter, it's just not the type of batter that England want. Where does Jamie Smith lie on that spectrum?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to really tell with James Smith because there isn't enough first-class experience to judge him as a keeper because
Folks
he's up against the best keeper in the world.
At Surrey
in domestic cricket. I think he kept well in the first game, but how much of that can I really tell is actually him being a very good keeper, or was it just a couple of good performances? By the looks of it, he's probably slightly towards the Bairstow side of things, just because I think he's a stronger batter, just because of how good a batter I personally think he is. But
Bairstow?
No.
Smith.
Smith.
Okay.
I mean, he may be.
What do you make? Okay, so
it's hard to tell.
Nasser's saying, and a lot of people have said on the comms that his batting was never an issue. They've seen him bat enough. They know he will be very good with the bat. He is talented enough. He'll be fine. Obviously, we thought that about Bairstow, but
Bairstow
different. Bairstow's
had a pretty
good of course, but I'm talking about the last 18 months and whatnot. So Jamie Smith with the bat, there shouldn't be issues. He's the type of batter they want.
Yeah, he should be.
But with the gloves, he looked perfectly fine. If you ask me, obviously it's only been one game, but
that's my point.
So essentially, the key for him is as long as he's competent enough with the gloves, his natural talent and aggressive flair will keep him in more Test matches than not.
Yeah.
Is that the end for Folks, or do you think there'll be a situation where they might say,
I think
when it's turning, if it's turning square and Sri Lanka away, do you think they take?
I think they'll bring Folks.
Do you think they will?
I think it depends on how good Smith is. We don't know how good.
We don't. He's been standing back to seamers.
We don't know how good.
Of course,
because we haven't even seen him show Bashir Bowl yet.
No, I don't think we will.
And is on here, it's going to be flat.
That Trent Bridge here. I don't know. If the Test match lasts more than
maybe Dave Warner,
if the game lasts more than 2 days, it might.
We saw England score 200 in a session on the 5th day.
Yeah.
My point is, I mean, I think there is a possibility for Folks to play.
Okay.
I can't see much possibility for Johnny Bairstow to play much more cricket unless he goes back to county championship cricket,
slaps it everywhere.
But
he won't come back as a keeper.
But he won't come back. He may do because he might be the only spot he gets into the team because he can't. Harry Brook is that good.
Yeah.
But theoretically, no.
If he goes back, scores runs, or at least scores runs quickly, and looks like the old Johnny, I think they might try to find a way to squeeze him in.
The thing with Johnny is
but it feels like England have sailed past that ship and they won't be they won't put it this way, they won't be trying to force him in if they don't have to.
How many times have we said that?
Yeah, but surely now they've genuinely tried. Like they've got James.
I don't think they'll look to bring him back as they have done in the past.
Yeah, they won't drag him in unless Johnny himself asks questions by form and whatnot.
Johnny almost has to prove. I do think Johnny gets a harsher rap than he probably deserves because even in series where we've said he's been rubbish, he has actually done well. Like in the last Ashes series, he got so much kind of rap from the media, ends up averaging 40 in the series. I mean, he does get a lot of his record over the last 18 months is pretty good, but it's also quite distorted by a few moments of brilliance. But then his keeping also brings you down. It's a weird phenomenon, and I think hopefully Jamie Smith is the answer because he's almost seems like a balance between the two because he can keep, and by the looks of things, he's probably one of the most talented young batsmen in England at the minute. So really exciting when it comes to that. And I do get it about Folks about saying because he is the best clubman in the world, but at the same time, for me, He can bat, but I don't think his
So-
batting is as strong as some
Yeah.
other people make out.
Is this a sort of trial 4-5 test matches for Jamie Smith, or has he just passed his trial already?
I'll give him the summer.
I think- Obviously, we'll come on to speak on the opposition, but Jamie Smith is, you think, set knocked down for the next, like?
It's hard to say. He's had one innings against them,
But it's hard to think otherwise, right?
but it's an ideal scenario if James Smith continues to do well and finds his feet and succeeds in Test match cricket,
All right.
because he's a perfect keeper.
So obviously you saw the West Indies for all of 45 minutes.
I got my money back.
Yeah, the third morning you watch. I don't see why so many people are complaining. You got to watch James
I'm not
Anderson
complaining.
James Anderson playing cricket on his last morning, Gus Atkinson taking wickets,
Yeah.
and England win.
Yeah.
Ended up walking on the outfield for a lot of us. I don't think you did, but ended up walking on the outfield, and it was all for free.
Yeah.
What more could you ask? And you got home in time to like have lunch and do whatever, basically.
Yeah, no, I'm not complaining.
And you had a net.
I did have a net there.
Yeah, but
That's why I didn't go out.
But what do you think it is about the West Indies? So I'll start off firstly. Their first class season ended in, I think, the beginning of April.
Yeah.
And the last Red Bull match before that
Hmm.
was the Gabba test all the way back in January. So for a lot of this squad who were either at the T20 World Cup or elsewhere, Shamar Joseph particularly, his last game of cricket was that Gabba test.
He got injured, didn't he?
And the only game they played between that was at Beckenham. You were there, weren't you?
Yeah, he didn't play.
He didn't play because he was away.
No. His flight was delayed because of the hurricanes.
Not sure about that, but he wasn't there basically.
I think it was, to be fair,
Fair enough.
because otherwise he just wouldn't have come over. He could have made
Fair
that
enough.
excuse.
But you were there on the first day,
Yeah,
and I was there on the second day, and I must say basically an England under 23 side, we're talking John Turner, Farhan Ahmed, Will Luxton, Hamza Sheikh, Ben McKinney, basically England's under 23s. They made West Indies look very, very ordinary and played them with ease.
on the first day,
I was genuinely concerned when a test match batting lineup was shaking their boots to, fair enough, John Turner is quick, and Eddie Jack looked alright, and Farhan Ahmed, how old is he? I know he's very good young offspring,
19.
but God, no, he's like 16.
Is he 16?
16 or 17.
I just presumed he played in the 19s.
No, he's 16 or 17, and he's ripping apart test match middle order. I was looking at that, and look, I know Hamza Sheikh's a very good young batter, but like Alzari Joseph and Jaden Seals were struggling against some under 19 kids, and I was looking at that thinking, my God, Lords is going to be murder because these guys look so undercooked. They do not look ready, and fair enough, it was genuine murder. Like everyone at the ground, all the West Indies fans, all the England fans, literally everyone could see it coming from a mile away. It was like, God, these guys aren't ready. Do you think that's a problem of just them not being prepared enough? Obviously, there's wider issues, but surely a bit more preparation and giving genuine respect to the test match and preparing yourself for a test match in overseas conditions that wouldn't have at least been that bad.
I think preparation is a factor. I mean, you have to look at the calendar, really.
Yeah, cool.
I mean, the fact is,
Ben Stokes spoke about it in a press conference the other day. Sure.
no, I didn't.
He basically spoke about saying, why hasn't the England team done more? And he just said, the calendars and whatnot. And obviously the boys sometimes, they prefer different things and whatnot. They'd rather have a net sometimes or other game. But it's just basically came down to the fact that it's hard to squeeze in everything you want because of the calendar.
The thing is, cricket isn't what it was even 5-10 years ago when England won in win, because there isn't enough time for them to go over there 2 months prior, play 10 practice games, even have a practice game in between series sometimes, which you can do because they don't have
Everything
time
just
for it.
to show
It's everything squeezed. You end up having ODI series happening at the same time as Test series.
Yeah,
it's just not. It's not
So
compatible.
put this way, England's last test of the summer finishes on the 10th of September, and the next day there's a T20 match against the Australians.
Yeah, and that was the exact same it was last year.
Yeah.
They played Ireland at the same time. As I think it was 2 days after the Test match finished.
Yeah.
It's just not really possible for the Windies to get over it early. Does that mean they should have been as bad as they were against England on the 23 side? No, but that's besides the point.
But my point is that there still could have been a certain amount of extra preparation. You can always squeeze in a bit more.
Yeah. I mean,
Obviously, it depends differently how teams prepare. As Stoke said, some players would rather prefer just hitting 1,000 ball in net. Some will just say a good 3 days in the field will be fine. But I think it just feels like the quality of preparation wasn't there.
I completely agree. I also
and they looked genuinely shocked when they were like struggling against a young England side with a lot of good young cricketers. Bear in mind, but it's still like these guys weren't even playing for their counties. That's why they were there. Their counties were playing, so this is like the third, fourth choice county side.
Oh yeah, completely. I do also think it would have been a lot better preparation if they'd had maybe a game against Essex. You know, when you're playing Essex 11 almost.
Yeah, but then
and I think they should
the
have done
timing
that.
was unfortunate.
The timing was unfortunate.
There was a championship round going on, so they couldn't play a county team.
Yeah, I agree.
But a few summers ago when India came in, they played against Northants, didn't they?
Yeah.
And then they just played, half their team played for Northants anyways. But that's my point. There was a certain amount. And how did they do in that series? They did right. The drawn
2-2. Yeah, it was 2-2, but the 2-2 only happened because the last match got cancelled. I think they would have actually won that series.
Yeah, they would have. It only became 2-2 because
they flew home, replayed the last
test match
the next year.
And that was a Johnny game where they chased.
It was the Johnny Joe Root.
Yeah, but my point is they would have won that series because they.
Yeah.
I know it's a completely different.
Exactly. I mean, I don't think the West Indies had the quality to be able to win the game.
No. I hope. Obviously, they've won the toss at Trent Bridge right now and chose to bowl on what looks to be very flat. And England were 50 for 1 after 4 overs. They've calmed down. What do they finish on at lunch? 122. Decent recovery there. But my point is, surely they can't be that bad. Surely they'll be a bit more like even watching Shamar Joseph now. His first goal actually looked good. Look quicker, look better, look sharper.
I do think their bowling attack is a lot better than their batting attack.
Oh, of course.
I genuinely think their bowling attack is a lot worse than England's. It might even be better in some areas. I mean, if you have Kemar Roach in this
that's a completely different story.
If you have Kemar, I'm not saying now, obviously they don't, but if they have Kemar Roach in that attack, Kemar Roach, for me, I would pick Alzari Joseph.
Jaden Seals, Shamar
Joseph, and then you have
Holder
as the 14er,
and a spinner.
That's a very good bowling.
Of course it is.
But
if you can't score runs, with all due respect, if Craig Brathwaite is your best batter or your most consistent batter, what are their averages again? Or
below 25, maybe.
Who averages above 25? Brathwaite.
Brathwaite averages 33, 32. But it was 34.
Even him, it frustrates me watching it because it's just not. It's painful, man. It's like
it's really sad.
It's either a flick off the hip or dead back. But I see why. If you're in a position where someone like that is your lead batter, it is concerning.
The thing with it is when I watch players like, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, but Athanaze. Alec
Athanaze.
That's it. Athanaze.
How have you got that wrong?
I can't pronounce
it.
But the players like him, you can tell can bat.
All right.
But they haven't had the experience at first class cricket,
or not even the experience, just the quality of the standard is so much
they
different.
Don't have. It's literally going to take these guys at least 30 test matches to get used to conditions, get used to it,
and they won't last that long because
they won't last.
Because look what they did to Tajan Chandapur.
Yeah,
he looked all right.
I would praise him.
He didn't score runs for a while, and they got rid of him. But I think it's just the issue with England. There was an argument with England having this issue as well. But with the amount of overseas players that come to the championship, it does help it out a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think West Indies' first-class system, their quality between that and Test cricket is just so high that none of their batsmen look ready.
I think part of that is
we all love Rakeem Cornwall, but if he's one of your best players going around in the West Indies Championship,
I do think part of that is also because they just don't play much. They don't play much.
There's so much other cricket to play. There's just so much other cricket. And say you're a young West Indian cricketer, if you can get into a franchise system, financially, that's such a better decision for you.
Also because of it's quite a poor area of the world. Often because it's not that far out of colonial rule. It's still developing. It's quite often developing states. Very beautiful parts of the world, but they're still developing states. So the economic opportunities aren't there in Test match cricket. The only thing I will say, Huz, which I think we do go a little bit harsh on the Windies, is England haven't won in the West Indies in I think 90 years, possibly longer. It's the same as obviously we do better over there than they do here, right? Yeah. But we still don't do well in air conditions.
Of course not.
So I think to a certain extent we have to take it with a bit of a pinch of salt. This is
Okay,
a good England side
most
who
England
were doing well in England, and that doesn't surprise
This is an
me.
England side who nearly beat the World Test champions.
They should have beat the world. They would have
Yeah,
beat
they
the
would
world
have beat the
champions if it
World
didn't
Test
rain. I mean,
champions.
I know it's hypothetical. I'm not saying.
All right,
it
but my point
but-
is, this is the World Test. This is an England side that went toe to toe with the World Test
Yeah.
champions, the best Test
granted,
side
in England.
of the past 4 years. But all I'm saying, it's really hard to come to England.
Yeah,
I know.
it is.
My dad literally just walked through the door where both he said England at home win a lot of games because they know their conditions, except
Yeah.
when it's Australia,
And it's the same with most other nations.
Mm.
I mean,
except Pakistan.
yeah, but that's because it's flatter than the A40.
Yeah, the M25 has too many potholes.
How the hell has England still got a result of Rawalpindi still beyond me? But anyways,
Yeah,
I think more money needs to go into the game over that, and then you're going to
but
see it.
there is, but not through Red Bull
But it
cricket.
goes into T20 cricket.
That's my point. Anyways, Karen.
Yeah, you gotta change the amount of income coming into the game, invest it into Test match cricket, and make Test match cricket actually desirable for people to play. Because what's the point if you're a talented West Indies cricketer?
That's what I said.
They'll just play T20 cricket, and
I mean,
that's
why not?
and-
You should do that. Brian Lara said it.
whereas England, you're going to make more money playing Test
To be
cricket
fair,
for England.
Lara on the TV, I do think he could still bat full for the Windies. Was his last season's average before he retired?
44?
He said he averaged 90 the year.
No, that was the season. That was
the
season.
year he retired.
The season he retired. So
All right.
05, 06, he averaged 94. But in 06, he averaged 40.
Fair enough.
So
So
60 and before that.
yeah, well that's all we've got for now. We'll carry on watching this Test match. Hopefully, when the next episode comes out, the West Indies are put in a much better fight. Maybe even one. Hopefully, that'll be such a good episode. West Indies upturning England's Bazball. Should have picked Jimmy. Imagine the headlines. That'd be great. That'd be brilliant, wouldn't it?
Imagine
What?
they just go out there and stat pad. They all scored 300 off.
What, Craig Brathwaite plays for a draw from day 2. That'd be brilliant. But anyways,
Mate, you're getting to that England or class.
yeah,
Funny.
that's all for now. Hopefully see you next week. See you later, man.